Today's speakers are Mariam and Joe Maldonado, who in January leveraged the support of the community to open Luna's Groceries, a small full-service grocery store in the Allied Dunn Marsh neighborhood in southwest Madison. This is an area that has been long a food desert for almost 10 years. They are going to share their vision and journey in establishing and opening the store, which has filled the void for residents in accessing fresh and affordable food. We look forward to your presentation, Mariam and Joe, and we have made a contribution to the Rotary International Polio Plus Fund as a way of saying thanks for speaking to us today. As I welcome them to the podium, remind you that if time permits for questions, and I want to emphasize questions, not commentary, please wait till I arrive with the microphone as the program is being recorded. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Okay, so I made myself two promises. One, I wouldn't eat too much, and two, that the word dessert is actually spelled with two S's. The word desert is spelled with one S. There's two of us, so you're in for a treat. All right. But we looked up the meaning of, or the motto of the Rotary Club, and it's service above self. Oftentimes service is done behind the scenes and without acknowledgement, but we want to do first, before we start our presentation, is acknowledge special folks in our lives who have really helped us make this possible. So I'm going to call out names. I'd just like you to stand up, show you love. A lot of these people don't like to be acknowledged publicly like that, but we're going to do it anyways. Let's start out with Mr. Felix Gibonnet IV. Mr. George Reistad, Mr. Oscar Morales. Yep, you've been behind the scenes helping us out. Miss Jenny Nunez, Mr. Ron Luskin, Mr. Maurice Cheeks, and finally, I'm going to put a lot of emphasis on this, Miss Mariam Nunez. Please stand up. Give them a round of applause, please. So this work took over a year. You can be seated. This work took over a year, and these are folks who didn't ask what they could do; they just did it. And for them, we're eternally grateful. My name is Joe Maldonado. I wish I was that good. And this is Mariam, my lovely wife. We're gonna take turns sort of on different parts of the presentation, but we're here to give you a little bit of information, and hopefully you'll have some good questions for us. So we're gonna start at the basics. We're gonna give you some context as to why we are doing what we are doing, and then sort of narrow down into the specifics of how we did it. We'll start with a food desert, 1S. A food desert is a place where it lacks access to affordable fruits, vegetables, whole grains, low-fat milk, and other foods to comprise a healthy diet. So this is a definition that comes straight from the Center for Disease Control. It's a place where people can't get the basic things that they need to be able to have a healthy life. If you look up at the PowerPoint presentation, you'll see a map. If you notice there are some darker areas throughout the map. These are areas where there are over 10% of residents have little or no access to food, food deserts, counties that have 10% of their population living in food deserts. If you'll notice, a lot of the dark areas concentrated throughout the South and parts of the West. But if you look up at our beautiful state of Wisconsin, we are not quite at those high percentages. But if you actually narrow it in, the city of Madison defines 10 areas within the city limits, and we're not counting other parts of Dane County that are food deserts. The area right at the bottom is the Allied Dunn's Marsh neighborhood. This is where we live. We've lived here for 6 years. Our son goes to the Boys and Girls Club. We've been working in this community for a long time, and to us it's paradise. The only thing that's missing is a place for our neighbors to be able to go and get what they need to be able to be healthy. And if you'll notice, there's also 9 other food deserts that are still in this city. What kind of effects do food deserts have on folks? So in 2008, counties with greater than 10% of households living in food deserts had higher rates of obesity, and they also had higher rates of adult diabetes. This is national. But if you look down to our local level, the day-to-day realities of folks that are actually living in our neighborhood and other neighborhoods throughout the city are bleak. They take up time, and they also have health outcomes that hurt people. It takes an hour, I mapped it out, it takes about an hour to commute by bus from where we live right down the street to Aldi's, which is on PD. So anybody that's sort of familiar with the west side, if you go down Verona Road to PD, you have about 3 or 4 grocery stores. For somebody living in our neighborhood, to catch a bus out of that neighborhood and to be able to get to where they need to go, it's going to take them an hour to get there. Up until 2014, after the 2009 closing of Cub Foods, which was walkable, for about 5 years, our neighbors relied on the Walgreens that was right around the corner. Well, after that Walgreens closed due to construction of the Verona Road project, that was sort of the last bastion of places for folks to be able to go to get some fruits, some vegetables, some milk, some eggs, and some produce. Higher cost, lower quality, but still a place for people to be able to get the things that they needed. Race matters. If you look at the statistics, 1 out of every 4 African Americans, 1 out of 4 Latinos in the United States live in food deserts, compared to 10% of whites. And these food deserts have consequences on health outcomes. Fast food, McDonald's, Taco Bell, lack of places to be able to get fresh produce. Large amounts of unhealthy food options lead to preventable diseases. The list is numerous, but we just listed a few. And food deserts have disproportionately high number of liquor stores. So in thinking about this project and thinking about where it is that we went, we consulted the research. We wanted to make sure that we use both local and national research to be able to state the case for why what we do is important. We know in our hearts that it's important. We know spiritually that it's important, but we wanted to make sure that we back it up with science. The allied Dunn's Marsh Neighborhood Association partnered with the UW to comprise a feasibility study to understand which locations would be best for a grocery store to be held. They laid out about 3 or 4 options that we consulted and we looked at. And that data was incredibly valuable for us. We also looked at information from the USDA, from the census, from the map that we showed earlier of the city of Madison, and also from the National Institutes of Health and the Center for Disease Control. Let's talk about our neighborhood. So if you'll look at the picture in the bubble on the right, this is our neighborhood. You look at those yellow lines, that is Verona Road at the left, and that is the belt line at the top. If you look on the right, there's a green space, that is the Arboretum. On 3 sides out of 4, our neighborhood is closed out by highways, by natural obstacles, as well as, if you look, there's sort of a small marsh there as well, which is Dunn's Marsh. It's very hard for people to get in and out of this neighborhood by car, by bus, and for our most vulnerable residents, by walking. This matters, and there's context in it. As I mentioned before, Cub Foods closed in 2009. Walgreens closed 7 years later, and the closest grocery store is kitty corner to the Beltline and Verona Road, over 2 miles away. We've lived here since 2011, and again, this place to us is paradise. It's a diverse, vibrant community with amazing people, great neighbors who really look out for each other. But the only thing that's missing is a place for them to actually sustain and nourish themselves. That's important.
decided to move out this way because it was an up-and-coming neighborhood, affiliated with a really good school system, and still location-wise really close to Madison.
This is Fitchburg. It's a suburb of Madison, Wisconsin, originally started as a farming community in 1837, before being settled by upper-middle-class whites fleeing the inner city following the rise of the automobile in the 1980s. And right on the border of Madison and Fitchburg sits the Allied Drive and Dunn's Marsh neighborhood, a community comprised mostly of working-class people of color. Most residents lack cars or other reliable transportation, making it difficult to keep a job or even go grocery shopping. So it would make sense for the city to invest in non-automobile transit systems. Or so we thought.
There's good news for residents, businesses, and commuters who travel on Verona Road or U.S. Highway 18151 in Dane County. The Wisconsin Department of Transportation is overseeing a multi-year reconstruction project that will improve the heavily used highway.
Beginning in 2014, the Wisconsin Department of Transportation embarked on an ambitious reconstruction project at the intersection of the Verona Road and Beltline highways, what was purported to be a renaissance for the surrounding Allied Drive neighborhood. Of course, more importantly, it would reduce traffic congestion for those who commuted regularly from wealthier Fitchburg into the city. The highway was slowly widened and the on-ramp redesigned, pushing out and forcibly rerouting surrounding businesses.
You might say it was a bad deal. I mean, they took down a bunch of homes and other things, but businesses that were in the way of the widening of the highway.
One such business, the local Walgreens.
In a neighborhood with no grocery store, having a Walgreens within walking distance has made all the difference for the residents of Allied Drive.
A lot of people, they don't have transportation, so it makes it kind of hard to get to a store, first of all.
Just this week, Walgreens announced it would close its Verona Road location, leaving the neighborhood with virtually no other option nearby.
It feels personal. People say don't take it personal. How can I not take it personal? You know, because it's affected me and my family and my neighbors.
Along with constructing a food desert, the widening of the highway blocked many of the entries to the neighborhood, geographically isolating the community.
One of the things it did was close off some of the entrances. Like most neighborhoods that are near freeways, access is bad, and bad access is bad for the residents. It's inconvenient to get in and out. The bus routes are not straightforward. They have to weave around to likewise, if you're accessing it by car, it becomes problematical.
Ultimately, the Allied Drive neighborhood was abandoned. The convenience of truck drivers and upper-middle-class white commuters was prioritized over the survival of Allied Drive working-class communities of color. This notion of turning less privileged neighborhoods into public assets for the common good is one that can be traced throughout American history and geography. In St. Paul, Minnesota, the historically black Rondo neighborhood was upheaved by the construction of the I-94, causing more than 600 black families to lose their homes. In Miami, Florida, the construction of interstate highways like I-95, the Dolphin Expressway, and the Midtown Interchange in the 1960s decimated the historically black Overtown's population by 80%. In New York City, Seneca Village, a neighborhood founded by free black people, was demolished in 1857 in order to construct the famous Central Park. What happened in Fitchburg is far from unique. Rather, it's founded in a legacy of transportation racism.
It just seems that we get a lot of things have been taken from us. Nothing is being added. It's only being taken from us.
While it's clear that the city was willing to sacrifice Allied Drive, so to speak, there is also a component of the construction project that seems intentionally isolating. By cutting off the entrances and exits to a community already bordered on two sides by highways, the city is furthering what's called architectural exclusion, or segregation through the built environment. Despite the recent advances in transportation infrastructure, citadelic Fitchburg is still highly inaccessible, particularly to those who don't own cars. There is extremely limited bus service and oftentimes no sidewalks, as well as a hyper-vigilant police force known for questioning young pedestrians of color. In the end, automobiles are the common denominator. The decision to reconstruct the Verona Road and Beltline interchange was done both because of and to perpetuate white flight, with cars and car owners taking first priority in decision-making forums.
The DOT, they consider their job to move cars long distances fast, and the damage that they do to local neighborhoods is not of their concern.
Racism is more than just derogatory slurs. It determines who and which neighborhoods we consider to be disposable. We must collectively and in policy recognize that racism exists and is carried out through large city projects like the expansion of Verona Road. When I interviewed Alice Howard, president of the Allied Drive Dunn's Marsh Neighborhood Association, her conclusion was this: real change happens when police forces, agencies, outside communities, businesses, and landlords all sit down with residents and work together to find solutions. Because of the unique location of Allied Drive, split between and on the outskirts of both Madison and Fitchburg, there is less ability for political power building. Both cities need to hold themselves to a higher standard of accessibility and transparency in decision-making processes. Only then can we make steps towards giving everyone equal footing.
Please. The reason why we included this video is to give context. This is important. The built environment, the policies that people make, the policies that government entities make are important, and they do matter, and they actually set the context for the reason why we exist and why we have to do what we do in the first place. Special shout out to Maddie Schumacher. Maddie's a Fitchburg native, a Dane County native, who in their freshman year of college actually created this video, and the research used and also the context and the real life interviews are important, and we want you to see the faces behind the folks that have played an integral part in this community for decades to be able to lead us up to the place that we stand right now before you. So with that, I'm going to stop talking. I'm not as interesting as Mariam, so I'm going to hand it over to her to talk about the actual nuts and bolts and the mechanics of the store itself.
Hi, everyone. Buenas tardes. I'm not as eloquent as Joe, so let's be clear on that. Bear with me, because I'm not used to do this, so my accent gets in the middle sometimes, so once I acknowledge that I have an accent, people can understand me better. So what do we do? Our neighborhood is Luna is very unique. We have about 75% Latino families that live surrounding Lunas. So most of our produce carry to the Hispanic community that we have there. We serve about 50 families a day, and we have a full service butcher. We carry, We carry fresh produce, milk and eggs. We have some local brands, and it was very important to me to have a grocery store that mirrors the people who live around me. I'm gonna put it over here because I'm just getting on my way. So, here's the people that has helping us throughout the way. So the way that we have reached our audience is connecting with people throughout the way. We have our local business supporting us through our journey. People that have done the work that we do, helping us to understand how the business work. The support of my family, coming from a family that actually have worked in grocery store, played a very important role in the overcoming of Lunas. So you want to talk about who we are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So just a little bit about us so that you have some context. Mariam and I, let's use food metaphors. We are two ingredients that complement one another and bring different flavors to the scenario. So we have qualities that are able to help us combine together to really make this actually happen. I'm from Milwaukee. I was born and raised, and I actually remember sort of walking to the grocery store a couple blocks from my house when I was a kid. My family is from Puerto Rico. I've been in Madison for half my life, for 18 years. And a majority of my work has been in the nonprofit sphere, particularly around education. I'm going to let you talk about yourself.
So I came to Madison in 2004 from the Dominican Republic. I work in numerous jobs as any immigrant. I was a bagger in a grocery store. That was my first job. In Caps, they got closed. Then I went to retail. Then I found my love in human services. So I've been at the Urban League for about 5 years, helping people to be placed in work and connecting people with job opportunities.
And above all, one of the most important roles we play is as parents. We have a 13-year-old son. He's attended the Boys and Girls Club in our neighborhood since he was 6. He's very active there, and he probably knows more people in the neighborhood than we do. And we have a rambunctious 3-year-old daughter named Naya. A lot of you have had the pleasure of being bothered by her on occasion. But they're both very vibrant human beings that are going to do way more than we can ever do.
So respond to Luna's Groceries. We are doing quite well. We expected to be selling $30,000 a year by the 9th month. We are hitting the sales of $46,000, and we are almost sure that we're going to hit $500,000 by the end of 2019. The majority of our customers are neighbors. They just walk into a store. We see families, mom with their kids and dad just buying the meal for the day. We are close to an apartment unit, the 18 apartment complex throughout Lunas. Our customers shop daily there, and that's one of the amazing things. You see people buying there. They come early, they buy their breakfast, they buy food for their lunch and dinner. And at the end of the day, the hard working day, they will stop by Lunas to get stuff for their kids. And now in the summer, we see a lot of people grilling outside, so they're getting their meats from Lunas.
Something we want to emphasize is that, and I'm sure there are folks in the room that can relate to this, sort of growing up before large box grocery stores became the law of the land, just sort of going to that corner store a couple blocks away and getting just what you need for the day. It's old school, and that's the feel that we've got in our store. It's people that are there to see people that they want to see, to build community, to have fun conversations with us. And we've got, our cast of characters and folks who are very interesting and fun people to be around. And those are the folks that make up the fabric of our community and actually bring our community closer together.
But my best customer is Rosa. She's 7 years old, and she comes every day to buy her family meal from her house, her apartment complex behind Lunas.
Yeah, absolutely. So our response has been overwhelmingly positive. We did have initial hesitation towards having a liquor license, but we actually found out that most of our business is actually in the meat and in the produce. That's what people are actually coming here to buy. So we've been blessed to not only really engage the people in the neighborhood who are the base of why we started it, but also to be selling the things that folks really actually needed. Yeah.
Some of the surprises that we have is we are starting to produce they really weren't selling because the demographic of the neighborhood were asking for that, so we have to alter the inventory. It's been asked a lot for the demand of hot food, so we sell tamales and prepared meat on Saturdays and Sunday, as well as local sauce that we make at Lunas. We are trending in social media, so most of our customers follow up on Facebook and Instagram, which is kind of cool because I have received people from throughout the county. Mm-hmm. They have seen the amazing post that my husband have put out there, and they were like, "We saw you on social media, so we came for the salsa, we came for the meat, or we came for something that we saw in Facebook."
And one thing that's really been interesting is that that map of Madison that we showed you earlier still has 9 other areas. We've had a lot of people say, "Oh, I live on the east side. Oh, I live on the far west side. How can we do what's being done over here in our neighborhood as well?" let me talk about community engagement. So we see Luna's as more than a store. It is a gathering place. If you walk in the store, you see a table with some high chairs that seat 8 with some phone chargers. You'll always find somebody sitting at one of those tables, passing out brochures, sitting and having a conversation. You'll find staff on their breaks having some coffee or whipping up something to eat. And it is a place where Mariam has actually become a mini version of Oprah. And she's pitched off a series called Coffee at Luna's, in which she interviews folks from the community, both in the neighborhood and actually abroad Dane County, who've talked about everything related to dyslexia, to educational access, to black women's health, to entrepreneurship and community development. And every 2 weeks we have that series where we're able to bring in sort of really amazing folks who do amazing things and share with everybody else what it is that they do. Folks who are unsung heroes, I would say. We found large orders with organizations, school districts, the university, companies, folks who have ordered our tamales in bulk and our salsa in bulk. And then finally, we are beginning this Saturday a series called Cooking for the Culture. Cooking for the Culture is a collaboration between Luna's and an emerging organization called Train to Grow Incorporated, in which we'll take 20 teenagers from the southwest side or the south side of Madison and Fitchburg, and actually monthly take them through a culinary experience.
I think how are we doing with time?
You have 8 more minutes.
Okay, maybe.
Oh, that's you. So we will talk a little bit about our sort of the adjustments that we've had to have in our produce and the things that we've carried. One is a demand for hot food items. Currently, we bring in our tamales from El Poblano. They come Saturday and Sundays in the morning. We also get fresh bakery from them every day. But we actually had a lot of folks asking us, what about soup? What about sandwiches? What about things I can just pick up on the go on the way to work? So we're actually working on doing something like that. Again, high engagement with our social media pages, and we've had to sort of make slight adjustments in whether we're not carrying enough tomatoes, or we're carrying too many eggplants, or we're carrying our cilantro. We need to store it a little bit differently so it lasts longer. Little things like that are sort of tweaks in any business we've had to do as well.
So one of the hardest things that we have encountered is we are a 2,400 square foot store. So most of the distributors around Madison, they can offer me good prices, so I can offer my customer good prices. They don't carry groceries to such a small store. So I have to go all the way to Chicago to get my groceries. I have to go all the way to Chicago to get my produce, because I don't have that big distributor that we consider to have to carry to Luna's because of the small sizes.
So we were asked to talk about the South Side. As you all know, the grocery store on South Park Street is closing.
I don't think it is anymore. So they put I don't want to say they closing, because they put an article out that they're going to stay there for a little bit. I don't know if in the future there will be a close, but by the time that we get, that we're asked to speak over here, that was the trending topic, the South Side grocery store leaving.
Yep.
The Pick and
Save, correct. So what we'd like to do is just offer our perspective. We've been engaging with folks who are talking about this a lot, but we really just feel that it's our best place to be able to just talk about our experience and our perspective. So a couple things. One was in the video and in the maps that we showed you, the Allied Dunn's Marsh neighborhood is very unique. It's unique because of its geographical isolation. It's unique because of its lack of bus routes, and it's unique because of the way that it's situated within the city of Madison and the city of Fitchburg. There are several small grocery stores in the South Madison area, but a lot of them are specialized grocery stores, whether it be to specific Asian populations or Latino populations, without sort of a larger maybe grocery store to be able to serve the more basic needs that folks have. That's what our experience has been, and we just want to put the note out to anybody that when they're considering doing this type of work, that it's very important to consider all the specifics and all the nuances of a community before necessarily saying that one thing that worked here will work over there. And we really urge folks that are hopping out into this work, if you're listening today, to make sure to take those things into consideration, and more importantly, to take the local communities that live there into consideration, because they ultimately have the wisdom and they have the understanding of what they need in their neighborhood. With that, we're going to end and ask any questions.
You didn't say where you were specifically located. I mean, I know Allied Drive neighborhood. I used to live on Crescent Road. What road are you on?
We are located in the 2010 Red Arrow Trail, so right across the street from the McDonald's. And it was a payday loan before us, so I think we improved the building.
Totally side note, I'm very sorry about the Dominican Republic and what's happened to David Ortiz. And so I think, I hope that doesn't fall out on the people of the Dominican Republic that are here. So,
Thank you.
Two quick related questions. One is, I've never heard of transportation racism before, and I noticed that in the video, and I didn't catch the definition or how that was being defined. It would be great to understand a little bit more of that, and I'll just leave it at that. Thanks.
Absolutely. So, oftentimes in the public sphere, when you hear the word racism, it's a very loaded word, and it's a very word that's visceral, considering the history of our nation. However, it's often associated with things like bigotry. It's often associated with individual actions that one person has towards another. I don't have a specific definition for it. I know it was used in the video, but my interpretation of it would be how the built environment actually affects different communities, specifically by race, and oftentimes because of it by socioeconomic status. So if you look at the historical examples of different neighborhoods that have been plowed through because of maybe larger decision-making powers, that affects people. And it's affected our neighbors, and it's affected the folks that live around us. You heard the community organizers in the Allied Dunn's Marsh neighborhood speaking. Their lives have been impacted by decisions that were made by somebody at the city level, at the state level, at the county level, and it means a lot. I can go into way more detail about the specifics of how it happened around us, but I'll leave it at that. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariam. Thank you, Joe. We are adjourned.